And even that argument, as insane as it is also factually wrong. The truth is that both things are happening. Now we turn to YouTuber Justin.
Citation. Nothing. And even if that was the case, it's not the case. And I have evidence. Next segment. I see Matt Walsh in the headlines. I'm not looking forward to that. I have two different Matt Walsh things to cover. One of them apparently is really bad, which is the Dr. Phil appearance. The other one is his Vaush video responding to transgender YouTube allies who hate my children's book. But I hear the Dr. Phil one is really, really bad. Like really, really bad. As in like, it's unwatchably bad. Matt Walsh says you don't get your own pronouns. Thanks, Matt Walsh. I'll watch this one and then I'll watch some of his call outs on the people who blah, blah, blah.
My name is Matt Walsh, and I've written a book called Johnny the Walrus. This book is about identity and imagination. He identifies as a walrus, and his mom's a little silly. She takes it seriously and thinks he really is a walrus. So she went on her phone and
I should make a book where I'm like, my name is Matt Walsh, and I identify as someone who's entertaining.
People telling her that this isn't pretend, he's really a walrus. And his mother takes him to the doctor to have him surgically transitioned and gets him walrus hormone pills, and then eventually tries to drop him off at a zoo to live with other walruses. Not only topping the Amazon charts, my book has taken the world by storm.
You're saying that there should be no construct of gender, just sex. You're either male or female.
Right.
And someone feeling in a...
Oh, is this entire thing because he doesn't know the difference between sex and gender? Is that the whole shtick that Matt Walsh is like, well, yeah, there's only one group of people who have penises and only one group of people who give birth?
Mental, emotional way that they don't identify with the sex that they have been biologically created as and assigned at birth based on their genitalia. If they don't feel that way, that there's no construct that describes that, experiences that.
Well, that's got nothing to do with the reality. So you can feel however you want. I mean, I could sit here and say that I feel like a tomato plant, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually in those things. So your self-perception, you can have whatever self-perception you want, but you can't expect me.
So again, because Matt Walsh doesn't know the difference between sex and gender, he's associating the two directly. And here's the thing, if you woke up one day and you were like, wow, I like if you had a penis and then all of a sudden you're like, I do not have a penis. I deny that I have a penis, even though you actually had a penis. That would be an unusual thing. And that might be what Matt Walsh thinks he's talking about here. That's very different than a socially constructed idea, which is gender. What is a man? What is a woman? What is a non-binary individual? These are all things that we have as ideas, as concepts, as we've created, but as a society. And those ideas have changed over time. You know, what used to be what was considered a man in a certain era was someone who wore a lot of makeup, white makeup. Some of it had some very serious amounts of lead in it. Wore very long wigs. Had very feminine rosé and stuff like that, and this was considered to be the aristocracy, a man's man, as it were. And that's different than today. If you saw someone who was dressed up like that today, wearing lead based makeup on their face and wearing a white wig or something of that nature, I don't think you directly look towards that person and be like, well, that's a man's man, that's a good old rugged man's man. No, these ideas change over time because we invented them. They're concepts. What is a man? What is a woman? All things that we've invented in our heads. So the fact that he so directly associates those two with sexual organs is his problem. That's the thing that Matt Walsh hasn't been able to figure out. But that's a Matt Walsh problem. Like that's a you problem. Just because you're behind the times, I don't think justifies, and this goes out to Dr. Phil, being allowed to just be an out and proud bigot. Like Dr. Phil shouldn't sit here and put Matt Walsh on as an expert of anything other than bigotry. Right? He should have Matt Walsh on and then be like, so why are you unable to accept the modern consensus of the scientific community? That should be the premise for this. Not, Matt Walsh, I'm going to now introduce you, and I'm going to introduce some people who happen to be trans, and then I'm going to let you, the expert on this topic, as a children's book author, that's a highly bigoted book and very transphobic, talk about these issues towards these individuals.
To take part in that self-perception, or to take part in this kind of charade, this theatrical production, you don't get your own pronouns, just like you don't get your own prepositions or your own adjectives. It's like if I were to...
Do you get your own name? How does that work? Like, if I called you Mark Walsh, you know, or if I called you Mush, if I called you Mush Walsh, like, you would be like, you're not pronouncing my name correctly, or that's not my name. I would be like, well, you don't get your own name. Your name is now Mush. I will call you Mush from here on out. Mush Walsh. That's right. In fact, I'm going to change the title. Here we are. Because you don't get your own name. That's right. No one gets a name.
To tell you, my adjectives are handsome and brilliant. And no matter, whenever you're talking about me, you have to describe me as handsome and brilliant because that's how I identify. Makes no sense. You don't get your own pronouns. That's grammar. That's language.
So you think it's a delusion? Someone is self-delusional.
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be mental illness. It could be it's a lot of it. With children, you know, there's also just a basic confusion that all kids have. Like that's why when you hear a parent say, "Oh, my 4-year-old son came to me and said that I'm a girl now, and so that's what I'm gonna raise him as a girl." No, you're a 4-year-old. I have 4 kids. When a 4-year-old boy comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm a girl," here's a good follow-up question. What is a girl? Ask him what he means by that. What do you mean by girl? And when you ask him that, here's what he'll tell you. He will tell you what he really means is that he wants to do some of the things that girls do, like play with the dollhouse, or you know, he likes the color pink. That's fine. Play with the dollhouse.
Armchair psychologist Matt Walsh on what you should be doing with your kids. Good to know. I love that this is the crowd, by the way, that are constantly like, "Oh, won't someone please think of the children?" And by the way, I'm going to advocate that if you're dealing with children who may be experiencing gender dysphoria, what you should probably do is just go let them play with toys because they want to play with other toys. That's all it is. Nothing else.
But you're still a boy. And that's a question I would like to throw out to other members of the panel. Actually, because just like the 4-year-old can't answer what is a girl, well, this is one of the problems with this left-wing gender ideology is that no one who espouses it can even tell you what these words mean. Like, what is a woman?
Well,
can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't. Because it's not for me to say. Womanhood looks different for everybody.
What do you define a woman as?
An adult human female.
And what does a female mean?
Well,
how
that's
do you define a female?
someone with female reproductive organs.
Null major tier 1 subscription.
Okay, first off, Cheeto, thank you. Second, wow, Matt, you done got bodied on your own question within a couple seconds. It's like, what is a woman? An adult human female. Okay, what is a female? Someone with the female organ biddies, the parts, vagina. No follow-ups.
Okay.
Someone who's, here's the thing, when you're female, it goes right down to your bones, your DNA. So that's why if someone dies, we could dig up their bones 100 years from now. We have no idea what they believed in their head, but we can tell what sex they were because it's down in.
You just used the word sex. You understand? You're still confusing sex and gender. You still don't know the difference between the two. Like, yeah, we'd be able to determine whether or not she had a certain amount of chromosomes, whether or not that she had reproductive organs, things like that. That doesn't mean that the artificial construct of man, woman, etc. Suddenly falls along those lines. Why do you think people who experience gender dysphoria, the ones who decide to go, who decide to transition, surgically transition, why are they doing that action? Are they doing that because they're just playing pretend, because they're confused, as you state, like, or are they trying to like lower the amount of gender dysphoria that they're experiencing? And again, this all comes down to Matt's deep, like, if you are a biological essentialist like Matt Walsh, and you define woman as someone who has reproductive organs. So you've got ovaries, okay? Woman is ovaries and woman is baby production. Then what happens for people who are born barren? Or what happens for every single woman who's experienced menopause? Do they cease to become woman then? If all a woman is the association with the ability to have kids, then what happens when they can't do that? What happens when they're unable to have children? Are they no longer a woman? Do you remove their worth as a woman? Or is it like you no longer are allowed to call yourself a woman? You are something else now.
It's ingrained in every fiber of their being.
Interesting. So I'm trying to understand. Your definition is that a woman is someone who is female, you said, right?
So Suburban Vampire says, cishet man here. It took me 2 years to get around the sex versus gender dawn of justice. Sure, but here's my thing. you probably wouldn't go on television in those 2 years and then suddenly start trying to talk about these issues like an authority, right? Like, I am completely sympathetic to the idea that, like, this, for some people, when they first hear about these kind of issues, all of a sudden, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, because I was in the same boat, okay? Black Hat Lex, thank you for the $5 dono. It says, I find it interesting that they cannot change your biology. Why the fuck do they think trans people take hormones? We cannot change chromosomes, but secondary sex characteristics, that's biology. Well, it really comes down to, again, Matt Walsh, as a biological essentialist, wants to equate sex and gender. He thinks the two things are, like, and this is with most people. Like, Ben Shapiro was doing the same thing back in the day. His was just like, I cannot call it he a she or she a he. I will never refer to he as a she or she as a he, and I refuse to say that even if a he is a she or a she is a he, or whatever the case, right? It's like, but you understand that this is English, and we invented those words. We invented the word he. We invented the word she. We invented the word they. I mean, and language changes over time too. It's not static. We no longer speaketh as in this tongue. You know, been more than a fortnight since one speaketh like this. You know, like we don't talk like that anymore. There's an evolution of language.
Correct. As
Okay.
a biological female.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? You know, cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Maybe doesn't have those organs.
Oh, I want to
that
hear
you're
his
talking
answer to
about,
this.
reproductive organs.
I have answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me.
Refuses to answer. Damn. What a dodge. You fucking asshole. Mush. You're mush. Your mind is mush. This is not an answer. Right away, it's just like, well, hey, you may have asked a question of which I don't have an answer to because my world construct is a little bit limited, but I've got a question for you. Here we go.
What you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not
But
myself.
you used the word, so what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right? So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term.
Okay, he looks so confused here. that's one of my favorite faces.
Right? So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
That describes what?
people who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
I need to know. Help me. I mean, Matt, why don't we give you this? A socially constructed construct that has changed over time, of which people associate different characteristics towards associating with. There you go. The same definition is what I would call a man. Is a socially constructed construct of which we use different characteristics throughout time to denote what that thing is. As I was saying before, there's been a period in time when the manliest of men would wear lead-based makeup all over their faces and rouge and wigs, and they were considered to be the manliest men in all the fiefdom. And nowadays, such things would be considered to be slightly what one might not characterize as mannish. These ideas change over time.
To each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently.
That doesn't-
And so
I'm not
trans
asking for
women are women too.
Okay.
And you want to hold on.
Say it again. Trans
You
women
want
are
to
women.
reduce.
What you
listen,
won't even
listen.
tell me
You
what
want
the
to
word
reduce.
means, though. So
you
that's
want
the
to
problem.
reduce.
Blake989 says, what about the manly men of Greco-Roman times? Hey, I mean, I am completely for if a couple of men want to become completely nude, pour some olive oil onto their bodies, and then just start wrestling for the purpose of enjoying each other's splendor. I think that is just as manly and valid as any other expression of manliness, you know? There's a variety of ways one can express one's manliness.
Women, you want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals,
No.
our chromosomes, right? That's what you're
What
saying.
you want to
that
do is
that's what we are at the end of
what
the
you
day.
want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood
Okay.
and turn it into basically a costume that can be worn.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the
Wait, Dr. Phil, you made that the last word? You should have, there was an applause at the end of this. This was a good little speech. Matt Walsh, this should have been the end of the segment, right here. It should not have been, hey, by the way, Matt Walsh is going to interject with one last terrible thing. Did you think the last thing was bad? Here's a worse thing. Okay, so Matt Walsh wrote a book. We watched the video where Matt Walsh reads his book to children. There were some pretty based kids in that video who were basically wanting nothing to do with him. But the whole ethos of his children's book and the thing that he's so proud about is that it's the one joke in children's story form. It's basically, hey, I've got a story and it's about a kid who identifies as a walrus, but he thinks he's a walrus, but he's not actually a walrus. And the point of the story is that trans people basically are making everything up. And then I wanted to put that into a children's book so I could sell that to kids and indoctrinate your children with bigotry. Teach kids bigotry at a very small age. And the weird thing is, the conservatives, they're the ones who are up in arms about the kids. They're the ones who are like, well, CRT, they're teaching in schools and they're teaching children to be racist against white people. That's what CRT really is. It's about being ashamed of being white. You know, you go to class, you sit down, and then all of a sudden the teacher's like, can all the non-white children please leave the room? I can only speak to the white kids today. And then the white kids all stay there and they're sitting there a little doe-eyed. And what's going to happen here? And it's like, each and every one of you has the sin of slavery upon your skin. All of you, you carry the blood of past slave owners. You are all horrible, horrifying human beings. And that's what CRT basically is. And the conservatives don't want that to happen, so they're fighting up against it. That's the crowd that thinks it's completely fine for Matt Walsh to write this really shitty children's book.
So longtime fans of this show will remember that last week, a long time ago, we canceled trans YouTuber Samantha Lux, who posted a video attacking my best-selling LGBT novel, Johnny the Walrus, which is available for pre-order.
Did he just say he was proud of a cancellation at the start of this? This like, none of this has any meaning anymore? Conservatives are cancel culture now? Okay.
JohnnyTheWalrus.com. After I debunked Sam's debunking, many people in the comments informed me that YouTube is in fact full of videos criticizing my seminal work of children's literature, Johnny the Walrus, which is available at JohnnyTheWalrus.com. They wanted to know why I only picked on good old Sam while leaving these other would-be debunkers unscathed. Well, as you know, I'm a big advocate for equity and inclusion. I would never want to single anybody out unfairly or leave anybody out unfairly. And so today, I'm going to go through all the other anti-Johnny the Walrus videos on the platform and cancel all of them. Now, we're not going to have time, unfortunately, to watch all these videos in their entirety, but we'll watch a short and hopefully representative clip from each, just so we get an idea of what they're all about, enough to demonstrate why they deserve to be canceled. Some of these videos are from accounts with lots of subscribers. Some of them have a subscriber base that includes their immediate families and nobody else. And some probably don't even have a fan base that large. But we're gonna include the whole spectrum today, because I think that's the fairest thing. And again, this is about equity. So we begin with the YouTube channel, Just a Lazy Gamer. Already you can appreciate the self-awareness at the very least. Let's see what Lazy Gamer has to say about my book.
Yes, Matt Walsh has decided to make a book hating on trans children. Because, you know, you got to get that hate speech in when they're young. But here's the thing. He's also decided to do the Let's Go Brandon Song Bryson Gray approach and go, hey, maybe you can get me in the top 10. And that'll really show him if you give me your money. And if we go to Amazon, he's already got 23 ratings. No verified purchasers, of course, because the book hasn't made it to anyone's door. Now, this book is on Amazon. Amazon has rules against hate speech in their book. They have that in the rules. And I get the feeling he's hoping that this book gets banned on Amazon to play the victim even more, maybe after they get it up to like number 15 or whatever on a chart. And of course, he's selling signed copies for, I think it's $30 with $10 shipping. God, those are amazing. Because of course he
Tigwick
is.
Gave Lesser Migratory Slow for Tier 1 subscription.
Oh, thanks, Tigwick.
Okay, to begin with,
I appreciate that.
He talks about there's a signed copies. $30 for a signed copy is a steal. I'm literally the most prominent and respected LGBT children's author in American history, as well as the country's leading cult leader and the most generous philanthropist and abuela fundraiser of the 21st century. So my signature is worth thousands.
Oh, Jesus, just fucking get to the point.
My issue is with the adults who have invented the category of trans kids. So if I'm hating on anyone, it's them, because they're morally debased child abusers. Hopefully that clears that up. Now,
well, you would know, being a morally debased child abuser, writing these fucking books.
Let's see what Sam has to offer. And a simple procedure cuts feet into fins. The doctor wants to cut into Johnny and make him into a walrus.
Ah, there it is. The whole mutilation thing. because we chop ourselves up. Remember, when we have surgeries, we're mutilating ourselves and we're chopping ourselves up. It's also funny because this book is about a child, and I've said over and over again, and many trans people have said that children don't get surgeries. We could say it 1,000 times, but these people still just choose not to believe what we say. It's really funny because this can be explained with just one simple thought. Children don't get surgery, right? How would you ever have surgery when you're not fully developed anyways? You can't cut this off if it's not there. So please explain to me how these children are getting surgeries.
Happily, I'll explain it. A few points here. First, no, I don't think that when trans people have surgery, they're mutilating themselves. Because if you have a trans person who has gallbladder surgery or gets their ACL repaired or has heart surgery, I wouldn't call that mutilation. Surgeries that are meant to treat medical issues are not mutilation, no matter who's getting them.
So wait, does he not even believe in gender dysphoria? Is that how far Matt Walsh has gone?
Now, if you don't believe me, let's go to the dictionary. Mutilation. Here's the definition. An act or instance of destroying, removing, or severely...
Okay, this is fucking like 1940s level bigotry right now.
That also happens.
Get past it.
But even if that weren't happening, still, children are being conditioned to make those choices, quote unquote, later on in life. They're being put on that path.
Like, as of right now, I think the most accurate statistics we have is that trans people, the trans community, makes up about 1% of the population. So again, if he's thinking that there's this massive problem where there's this indoctrination of children that is happening because of the scary big trans lobby and they're, you know, coming after your kids and all that, he is in effect just trying to, again, marginalize an already incredibly oppressed, marginalized community. And to use the language that he's using is like, it's that's the problem with Matt Walsh. He's actually gross. There's people we watch where they'll come across and they'll either be a blend of like misguided or you know, they're being inflammatory for trying to be entertaining, but Matt Walsh is just that kind of like condescending and patronizing and aggressively wrong style of bigot,
even though they don't understand the path they're on. And even if most boys aren't being physically altered through surgery, they are being given puberty blockers like Lupron, which is chemical castration. The same drug used to chemically castrate sex offenders. So your argument...
does he have a problem with cis kids using puberty blockers if prescribed by a doctor? Because that happens. It's been happening for a long time. There are cis children who have to take puberty blockers for a myriad of reasons. I'm sure he doesn't have doesn't care for 2 seconds about that. It's because he genuinely despises and hates trans people, and he thinks that trans people are some kind of an abomination. And because of that, if they are trying to do things to help their dysphoria, then that is wrong. That is what I would consider to be mutilation or something beyond the pale. But I mean, if it's happening to cis kids, because again, they might have an abundance of a certain hormone, they need to take a puberty blocker. Well, then that's of course just cis kids being cis kids and a doctor being a doctor. It's very, very different.
Argument, Sam, is that the boys aren't being surgically castrated; they're just being chemically castrated. And even that argument, as insane as it is also factually wrong. The truth is that both things are happening. Now we turn to YouTuber Justin.
Citation. Nothing. And even if that was the case, it's not the case. And I have evidence. Next segment.
Justin Freakin, the guy's he's a formidable voice in the culture. He has 6,000 subscribers, averages easily over 30 views per video, and his channel description promises, quote, uncensored and unfiltered political...
You know what? I want to write a children's book now and called Oppress Me Please Daddy. And the whole thing is going to be about how many made up things conservatives come up with to try and experience oppression in their lives while at the same time condemning others for actual oppression. And that's going to be the whole kids book. It's going to be a bestseller, a best-selling kids book coming out soon. I'll pair up with Kyle to do the art, and it's going to be Oppress Me Daddy. Okay, Oppress Me Daddy, the story of conservatives and their struggle to feel oppressed in the world. There you go. Amazon top 10. I'm writing it. I'm excited. I'm inspired. We're gonna do this. Okay. Oppress Me Daddy is coming out. It's gonna be an amazing children's book just to teach everybody about the differences between real oppression and made up oppression. Such as if you leave the house and you're a Black American, you may experience real oppression. If you leave the house and you wear a MAGA hat and you're oppressed for that MAGA hat, that is made up oppression. As in, one is not something that you can change in any part of your day, whereas wearing the MAGA hat is something that you can choose to put on or off. And even then, you're not really oppressed for wearing that MAGA hat. So we'll have a whole little adventure. You know, little Timmy can have a day where he makes up fake oppression and then he tries to get some sympathy for it. Those will be the made up oppressions. And then he can meet someone who's actually experienced real oppression, and then they'll explain to him why little Timmy wasn't actually being oppressed. So Oppress Me Daddy is coming out soon.
Talk and debate from a leftist perspective the day's top news stories and videos with astute social commentary. I'm not sure if we can trust the part about, you know.
He literally criticizes Samantha Lux for not providing data in her reaction video and then doesn't provide any source for his claims. Yeah, well, I mean, he seems like a big old source equals trust me. Don't worry about the source. It's coming in the future. Oh, there's a new Brent? Okay, sweet. We'll watch that after as a palate cleanse from this fucking deplorable human.
Astute social commentary. I don't know about that. We'll find out in a minute. But we can be confident that it's uncensored. I mean, if this guy's a leftist, then certainly we can be assured that he has not been censored. So let's see what he brings to the table.
Not as insane as Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire releasing a children's book. Here is Matt Walsh apparently getting some children together for a story hour with sweet baby Matt Walsh.
Okay. Hello, boys and girls.
Yeah, the kids look about as enthused as we are. He didn't draw the cartoons, and that's the main part of the book.
I guess I got to thank Matt Walsh for introducing me to Justin's Freakin'. This is the first time I've seen it.
Like, passing
he streams
yourself
on
off
Twitch.
as the
Sweet.
author of this
I'll add him
stupid
right now.
book is insane. Because you know what this book is? This book is a actual talented illustrator. And then some dumb words on top of it.
Honestly, I don't know why this guy doesn't get more views. I mean, he's like Macho Man Randy Savage. If Macho Man Randy Savage could only bench press 45 pounds and was a hippie. But Randy has exposed a startling truth.
Man, what is it with this modern day insecurities with dudes where it's like, how much do you bench? How tall are you, bro? Are you 5'7" or 5'8"? 5'7" and 3/4? I don't think so. You better be 5'8". Or is this the tilt? We talking about the tilt? What's going on here, bro? How much you bench? Yeah, let me see it. Let me see it. I don't know, bro. Those kind of, you just work out the glam muscles. I feel like you're just working out glam muscles. You don't really bench that much.
Did not illustrate my own children's book. I have tried to keep this hidden by putting the illustrator's name on the cover. I was hoping to hide it in plain sight. And my plan almost worked until Seth Rogen's unemployed cousin foiled the plot. All right, let's finish this up with a somewhat larger account. This is Vaush or Vaush. I don't know how to pronounce his name. 386,000 subscribers. His video.
Like V-A-U-S-H doesn't look like it reads Vaush. Where did that come from? Was that the quartering who started that? Who's just like Vaush? Like it's not V-O-O-S-H. Then I could understand people being like, it's Vaush, right? Vaush. I don't like. Okay, fine.
The video is titled "Matt Walsh reads his new anti-trans book to kids, and I am incredibly uncomfortable." And the video's done pretty well for him. It's got nearly 150,000 views. Let's skip ahead to, I think, what is, I guess, the crux of his argument against my book.
Wait, what is the lesson at the... Wait, now is he bird gender? Wait, what does any of this mean? What does any of this mean, man? No, he said earlier, people online told his mom a well-meaning mother was duped by evil transgender SJWs. Yeah, okay, but, like, what about the kid? Like, the kid didn't seem... After the kid said, I am a walrus woo-woo, and had a picture taken of him, the kid had no input whatsoever. Did the kid want to eat the worms? If not, why didn't he stop? What was the kid like, I don't want to eat the worms? And the mom was like, no, you have to. The people on Instagram said that you have to, or I'm a big... Like... I don't want to dig into this too hard because it's obviously really stupid, but I am genuinely astounded by the incompetence with which this was put together. Like, they paid an artist.
I'm just curious why he's intentionally blurring his chat. Is that to protect the chatters' names themselves in VGG, or is it because the things that are on here might be too spicy for Matt Walsh's audiences?
they had it published, like it's on sale. Like, how do you not put a little more effort? Not even just the quality of the art, but like the language used betrays such an incredible incompetence in using allegory to deliver a political message.
That's true. I'm not good with language. I mean, we can't all be wordsmiths like Vaush here, who says things like, the language used betrays such an incredible incompetence in using allegory to deliver a political message. Dude, why do you speak in real life like you're a 9th grader writing a book report and trying to hit a minimum word count? You think it's a bad allegory. Just say that. Though I'm not sure how you could judge the competence of the story or the allegory, considering you, by your own admission, don't understand the point. You're a grown adult who failed to grasp the extremely simple message in a rhyming children's book written on cardboard for preschoolers.
Fuck, this is sad. So this was the whole thing? We're almost, yeah, the video's almost done. This was him being like, I'm now going to address all my criticisms by showing a select 1 to 30 second clip. Like, yeah, 30-second clip, 15-second clip, 15-second clip, 10-second clip, and each time just being like, yeah, destroyed, bodied.
And somehow you think that your failures of reading comprehension are an embarrassment to me. I mean, I am embarrassed watching this, but the embarrassment is of the secondhand variety, I assure you. The good news is that you seem to have...
I have secondhand embarrassment for you, fucking bodied Vaush, if that is your real name.
Almost understood the point. So you got to the 10-yard line intellectually before you fumbled the mental football. You
Talk about his
nearly made
IQ.
it all the way there. Because you note how in the story, the mom is the focus, while the child, Johnny, has little input into his own alleged lifestyle choice. He's doing things, he's walking down a certain path, but it doesn't really seem like he's choosing to go in that direction. Yes, Vaush, that's the point. That's exactly the point. That's what we're going for. The fact that Johnny's mommy is really the main character in a story that's ostensibly about Johnny himself is not an accident.
You know what's funny is he thinks this is a huge dunk, but this isn't a matter of like Vaush is like, oh, I couldn't comprehend the deep intellectual notes that were taking place in this book. It was far beyond my understanding. And more just him at the very end of the thing being like, what, was that it? Is this the whole bit? Is that the end of your video? Is that what was that the point of the whole thing?
That's a bit of intentional irony. Very much an intentional creative decision by the brilliant author of this book, which is available at johnnythewalrus.com. It's almost as if I'm trying to make the point that transgenderism among children is once again an invention of the adults around them. No child can actually choose this path. They don't have the psychological and emotional formation required to make.
If only we had data. If only we had hard data. I don't know. Something like meta studies. That's it. Like an analysis of multiple studies that have taken place over the course of whether or not people who experience dysphoria, if steps are taken to ease or aid their dysphoria, if that helps them, if that is a beneficial thing to them in their lives. And oh, wouldn't you know that? It seems overwhelming the data shows in the affirmative to that statement, in that it is true that if people, including children, are given the option to help alleviate their dysphoria through a variety of methods, including taking puberty blockers, that it is of a net benefit to them. So really what you're doing is you're just flying in the face of the overwhelming body of scientific consensus on this, so you can push your bigotry and sell your books. That's it. That's the sum total of what is taking place here.
An informed decision about fundamentally altering their identities. Any child, therefore, who does make such a decision, quote unquote, has been, by definition, pushed and pulled that way by the grown-ups in their lives.
Yeah, that seems to be the overwhelming consensus. Like, even if you were looking at this from a completely non-scientific standpoint, even if you wanted to look at this from like, well, this is the parents who are doing this. The parents are trying to push the trans agenda upon their children. Why is it that there's such huge amounts of trans people reporting that they are either ostracized from their families once they come out as trans, that society as a whole ostracizes them for coming out as trans, that they're ostracized by their peers in their school for coming out as trans? Like, none of these seem like things that people would readily be like, yes, that's the course for me. I want that thing. That sounds much better. That being alienated from everyone I know and love sounds like, it's definitely the course of action that I would like to take.
Do you understand now? Because I literally can't make it any simpler or plainer than that. The book is written at a reading level for kids who barely know how to read. So if that's still above your intellectual pay grade, I'm afraid there's not much else I can do. Except say that you're canceled.
Cool, bro. Cool. Well, that's about all the mush I can take for today. That was quite a bit of mush, and I prefer my mush in mild doses, but That's going to be it for today. I know that there's a full 1 hour of him on Dr. Phil, but I think I've got a pretty good summary of what Mush was going to go with in this. All right, let's palate cleanse. Too much mush for the mind.
Straight. They want to make M&Ms more woke. I don't think so. I'm done. You need to get your shit together, Willy Wonka, because you know what they say. You go woke and you go broke, and that rhymes, so you know it's true.
True.
And just look at the California raisins. Where they been, huh? When's the last time you seen a California raisin? They went broke because they went woke. And if you don't believe me, California's in the damn name. That's not through the grapevine either. That's straight facts. And they want to make the M&Ms more relatable. Well, they were already lumpy. They were round. Their sugar was high. I can relate to that. You didn't need to change nothing. And they want to make the green one less sexy. Oh, so we're out here trying to slut shame now, huh? In 2022, this is disgusting. This isn't some children's cartoon where two dads subtly hold hands in the background. I say sexualize these inanimate objects. That's what I say. Give her sexier boots. Give her cheeks for weeks. Make her the throat goat that you know. That you know she can be. They're taking everything from us. NFL, Nike, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, Carhartt. I don't even know where we stand on Starbucks. Are we in? Are we out? I don't know. You can't have shit anymore.
Oh, he didn't cough at the end of that one. Maybe he's finally getting healthier. I, for one, am happy. That's true. It's got to be a minefield if you're trying to shop exclusively through cancellation practices. Like, you can't drink Keurig coffee. Like, if someone hands you coffee and it's from a Keurig, you're like, sick, and then pour it in their face kind of thing. In Roblox, don't hurt anybody. You can't have Nike shoes. Can't have Gillette because Gillette went all, toxic masculinity, so you can't shave with the Gillette anymore. I mean, what can you have? There's not a lot of things left. I think Chick-fil-A is still good. You can still have Chick-fil-A. They still hate the homosexuals. What else is there? There's probably a few things left. Well, either way, I mean, happy shopping. Happy shopping, conservatives. Hopefully you can cancel culture your way into the new world that you've been so very thoroughly wanting.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we beseech thee to smite down our enemies. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble court jesters, here to amuse you. To our lords, Trevor R., we give thanks for this spit of land for us to eke out this meager existence. To our knights, Merid, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Ellie Leslie, Alex P., Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Yanis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our flag in a veil, and we salute you, our friends.